In my Twitter feed today, you may have seen that I retweeted a story about a company that is already reproducing simulations of dead people. They can take photographs of people, if they have enough photographs, and they mash it up, and they can create a 3D rotating object. I'm sure you've also seen that, I think other companies can have a character, let's say a CGI character, speak in exactly the tone and voice of a real person. And so now we have the voice and the look, and they're feeding off of information that's available on the internet about these dead people. So when I tell you that my legitimate, honest, I'm not exaggerating one bit, plan for many years has been to live long enough and see the internet with enough of myself that I could be immortal, meaning that I will be recreated easily and I'll have something pretty close to a full personality because of the body of my work that's all public. So if you were to look at all of the books I've written, the blogs I've written, the comics I've written, the periscopes I've done, and at some point some AI can just go out and scrape all that stuff and put it together, you would have a pretty good picture of who I was, at least on average. Now the problem, of course, is that people are not the same people that they were. So for example, I'm not the same as I was when I was 20, so I don't want that part to be immortal. I want something closer to my 60-year-old mind to be the permanent one. Because that's sort of when you've learned the most, and pretty soon my mental processes predictably should decline, at least in my organic state. So I'd like to sort of lock in whatever happens in the next few years for me. Now, some people have said, hey, you can't reproduce consciousness, so even if you were reproduced, your consciousness wouldn't go with you, so therefore, it's not really you. Here's my argument to that. Every part of my current physical body, my organic body, is different from the cells I was born with. So if my body has already been 100% replaced with a different body, and that's just objectively true, right? All of my cells have been replaced since birth. But I still have the same consciousness, don't I? So it seems that the consciousness can change from one physical form to another because it already did. Now other people say, oh, but that's organic to organic, and it's all based on your DNA. So really, that's a sort of a continuation of your consciousness. That's not a new body. Okay, some people say that a simulation cannot have consciousness. Here's what I say. Do you have consciousness right now? Do you have consciousness? Here's my argument for why a simulation can have consciousness. Because you are one. Now, when I say you are one, do I mean that like with 100% certainty? No, I do not. I mean it with 99.999999% certainty. Why? It's the argument you've heard a number of times from me, which is if a simulation is possible, lots of them will be created. So the odds of you being an original species versus one of the many simulations created by that species is vanishingly small. So you don't have to ask yourself, can consciousness exist in a simulation? Because it's you. You're, in all likelihood, and I mean almost all likelihood, as in 99.9999%, you are a simulation. Do you have consciousness? Sure you do. It's the impression you have of yourself. Could you create another simulation that believed and acted as though it had consciousness and had something like feelings and everything that we would call consciousness? Absolutely. In my opinion, that won't even be hard. It might take 20, 30 years, but it's not the hard part of the deal. So the technology is coming together to execute my plan of living forever and bringing my consciousness over to the other device. Now, somebody brought up the thought experiment of the Star Trek transporter. Let's say the transporter effectively, if we can imagine inventing a transporter, not the actual Star Trek TV show one, but if you were to create a transporter, would it destroy the person, the original, and then only create a copy? And what would that feel like? Because the person who was destroyed would end consciousness. They would no longer feel anything. And suddenly, at the other end of the transporter, ping, something that is a copy of you would wake up with full consciousness and all of your memories. Would that creature, who would be really just another creature, would it still have consciousness and would it still be you? I say yes. Because, as I said, even the adult you is all new cells from the time you were born. So if you could just speed up that process and create an all new you more instantly, it would be all new cells, still you, still based on your DNA, still has your memories, feels what you feel, remembers being in the transporter. I say that's consciousness. No problem.